Hello, hello. Happy World Octopus Day from OctoNation, the largest octopus fan club. Super excited. Oh, the echo. Let me figure out where it's coming from. One sec. Okay. Let's see. We'll fix it in post, everybody. Don't worry about it. I just have to figure out where this is playing. Where in the world is this other browser playing? 1 second. Could it be playing on any of your computers? If you guys check your browsers really quickly. There it is. I found it. It was me, y'all. World Octopus Day, 10 years. OctoNation has been around for 10 years, and yet here we are still adapting and figuring out tech, right? So that's one of the things the octopuses, they're just like, we don't have to do any of that stuff, which is great. So wanted to start off World Octopus Day and say welcome. Me and Chelsea, who is going to be on the presentation today, she's known as the OctoGirl. And we were at an event and we were like, wait a minute, we've been doing this for 10 years. So OctoNation was founded back in October of 2015. And so really, really happy to be with you today. And I want to bring on Sy Montgomery as well. And so I'll pull them up on the stage together. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
And we got Chelsea here. Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
Happy World Octopus Day.
Thank you.
Our
thank
favorite
you.
Day.
And so we're going to go around. So some of you, hey, we have people that are watching us in class. That's so awesome.
Oh, yay.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go around. And for those of you who have never seen our faces before, because oftentimes with OctoNation, we know that you all want to see octopuses. So we try to keep it as octopus-centric as possible from the standpoint of posting about octopuses. I mean, I feel like you guys see enough people in real life anyway. Like we can just, there's not enough, showing of the octopuses. But we're going to go around and just say who each other or who we are. First off, I'm Warren. I'm founder of OctoNation. Had this crazy idea back in 2015, and we'll get into it when I tell you a little bit more of our story. But I'll kick it back to you, Sy.
I'm Sy Montgomery, and I am the author of The Soul of an Octopus, which came out in spring of 2015 and brought Warren and I together.
Nice. Chelsea?
Hi, everyone. Chelsea Bennice, aka OctoGirl. I am an octopus scientist at Florida Atlantic University and also the scientific advisor for OctoNation. Like Warren mentioned, I'm usually behind the camera photographing and doing video of octopus behavior for my research. So I was like, oh, wow. Although I've done a lot of social media posts for my Instagram and Facebook and OctoNations, I was like, well, I've barely showed my face. So I'm excited to be here to show who's behind the camera.
So yeah, we're gonna be taking everyone's questions. If you have any questions about octopuses, if you have any questions about World Octopus Day, how you should celebrate, we have a couple of ideas. But definitely keep the questions coming and we'll pull them up towards the end. But I definitely wanted to get into firsts. For those of you who are watching, I don't know if you remember your first experience or your first encounter with an octopus. I was just going to pull up kind of like how mine looked. But first and foremost, if you all want to celebrate with us, here's a really quick thing. You can go to octonation.com/sheet, and you can download our World Octopus Day celebration sheet, and you can decorate this however you want. Make sure that you tag OctoNation and let us know how you're celebrating with us. We always love to see what species of octopus you make the octopus, and how you choose to color it and how you choose to celebrate. So definitely go to octonation.com/sheet, download that, and print it out and color it. But really wanted to talk about your first experience. So my first experience was at an aquarium, and I remember being on a field trip and seeing an octopus, and it was following me, very similar to this one, from the standpoint of it just, wherever I moved, it would kind of like follow me, and it felt like it was just locking eyes with me the whole entire time. And that's kind of when I knew, I was like, oh, this is my animal. Like, this is going to be it. And that was at 7 years old. So I'm curious, for those of you who are watching, if you could put in the comment section, or maybe write on a piece of paper and share it with us later. What was your first encounter with an octopus? And if you haven't seen one in person, what fascinates you or draws you to the octopus? And so I kind of want to go around and first ask you, Sy, when was that first inkling or first experience, or first, like, when did you first hear the word octopus, and what did you think of the animal? Would love to hear from you about that.
Well, I loved going to zoos and aquariums as a child. I felt like these were my people. I never really identified so much as a human. I always wanted to be with all the different animals. But like you, seeing an octopus in an aquarium, it's quite obvious that they are just as interested in you as you are in them. And years later, in 2011, when I first touched an octopus at New England Aquarium, when my friend lifted the lid to Athena's tank, their giant Pacific octopus, when I saw this beautiful creature turn bright red with excitement and flow out of her lair to greet me, that was when I knew I was going to devote the next bunch of years to writing a book about the consciousness that they clearly exhibited. And it has just brought me blessing after blessing after blessing, including knowing both of you and so many other friends at the nation.
I love that. How about for you, Chelsea?
Like, I gotta follow that. That was amazing. So I'd say my first introduction, well, first I was introduced to their relatives, cuttlefish and squid, before I was introduced to the octopus. So I did a marine science internship at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, where I discovered what a cuttlefish was and their amazing color changing skin. And my background is animal behavior, and I don't think there's a better group of animals to study and to learn about animal behavior. So first I learned about cuttlefish behavior and the camouflage, and then I went to squid. And then after my internship, I went back down to South Florida to do my graduate work. And for research in academia, you have to get scientific scuba certified. So I was on a night dive. And so my first experience with an octopus was in the wild on a night dive. And I remember seeing the species. It was a Caribbean reef octopus. They are nocturnal. They come out late at night. So all of a sudden, when I flashed my flashlight over the reef, I saw this animal out foraging, and it was absolutely amazing. And from there, just like Sy, I was like sold, like that's it, octopus behavior, like let's go.
Like the Caribbean reef octopuses, those are those ones that we say that have like a ball gown. It's like they have that the deep webbing where they just completely throw their arms over coral and like canvas and then trap. It's like a circus tent. It's so cool. So you saw all that stuff live?
Yes, first time. So it was amazing. And this is one species that one of its distinguishing characteristics is this bluish green, like teal iridescent on its head, behind its eyes, and that ball gown or that arm webbing. And so teal's my favorite color, so I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this octopus.
We have lots of people who are messaging in. This one from Taylor says, I've loved octopuses long before as an adult. I sought out seeing one in person. Now I have a membership to the aquarium almost 2 hours away to visit octopus there often. We have this one. What draws me to the octopus is how intelligent they are. I've been fascinated by them since I was a kid. I used to travel up America's West Coast every 2 years with my family. This is incredible.
That
Keep
is
sharing.
amazing.
Yeah, keep sharing your first encounters with an octopus. I just want to tell you a little bit more about kind of like how even OctoNation came to be, some OctoNation history for those of you who maybe have just followed in the past couple of years or a year. You might not have heard the story. But it does start with Sy, with the soul of an octopus. I, was working in New York, at the time, and was working with the celebrity fashion photographer, and was really trying to figure out what my thing was going to be. And I remember after learning, I was in this really interesting space where I was like, if I could do anything, what would I do? And I remember going to the library and seeing this book and reading it. And the first couple of pages, and for those of you who have read Soul of an Octopus, let us know in the comment section. But you probably remember in the first couple of pages, Sy mentions how the octopus has kind of been demonized through, Western culture and throughout history. And I always remember wondering why there wasn't more fanfare, there wasn't more there wasn't more books, there wasn't more just as big as other animals were, like dolphins and all these other animals. I'm like, why not the octopus? I don't understand. And when I read that, I was like, that makes complete sense. We have to do something about that. And so I remember emailing her and being like, what are we going to do? And she was like, well, I'm not tech savvy. The fact that she's on this live, a modern miracle. So she was like, go forth and conquer, Octo King. And I feel like that's all the permission I needed as somebody who was really desperate and looking for purpose and for looking to utilize my talents. And so we created OctoNation. And I remember meeting her for the first time at an aquarium, and I believe it was Sy the octopus at New England Aquarium, and meeting Sy Montgomery. And I just thought, wow, this is like my Super Bowl moment. Like, this is like, I always viewed Sy as like the Beyonce of octopus. When people said, well, who's Sy Montgomery? I'd be like, who's your favorite singer? Who's your favorite actress? Who's your favorite whatever? That's Sy Montgomery to me. And so it was just a really cool friendship that started and turned into her becoming my mentor, me writing and trying to encapsulate. And I've always told this to Sy, that she has the ability to make people fall in love with an animal they might not even ever considered before. And so I don't know if you all feel that too when you read her writing, where it's just like, like Condor, it's just like, I've never even considered that animal, but all of a sudden now I'm like trying to find photos on Flickr, or trying to find, more information about an animal. And she just has that ability. And I don't know, Sy, if you want to kind of speak to the craze of the Soul of an Octopus when it came out. Were you expecting it to kind of have the impact that it had?
Not at all. In fact, Simon & Schuster did not give me a book tour. I found this out in advance, and I hired somebody because I hadn't known you yet. But my wonderful friend Scott, who actually has a house on Main Street and a house in New York, to do a book tour. And I was gobsmacked when this book about an animal that few people ever saw, no one knew anything about, it became a bestseller before I got back from the book tour. And then I was further gobsmacked to discover in the fall that you had founded OctoNation. And the next thing I knew, this book about an obscure animal was long listed and then shortlisted for the National Book Award. This does not usually happen with natural history titles. There used to be a category for natural history when folks like Peter Matheson, who wrote The Snow Leopard, won it. But this was completely unheard of. And then with OctoNation, I think things just really blew up.
Yeah.
Back in the day, my friend Scott, who'd opened up the tank for me to meet Athena, he got me this rare, precious, unusual object. It was a mug with a picture of an octopus on it. It was like nothing. Well, now you can get an octo-shaped bed. You can get octo towels. You can get octo bath mats. You can get octo, octo chandeliers, octo shoes. And there's just an explosion of interest in octopus art and octopus science. And folks like Dr. Chelsea Bennice are getting their time in the sun. I think I know so many people who had like labored in obscurity or relative obscurity for a super long time. But Dr. Bennice was just recently all over the newspapers with her latest findings. People cannot get enough of these beautiful animals. And Warren, I would love for you to also share about how at first people thought you were crazy founding this thing. Even your own brother thought, well, they're not endangered. Why are we
Yeah.
even doing this?
I mean, we know that, like, I remember growing up and turning on the TV, and I feel like this was the nonprofit kind of marketing strategy where it was either dogs in cages with Sarah McLachlan playing in the arms of an angel, or there was, I don't know, just a lot of doom and gloom. Because I feel like when it came to nonprofits having airtime on TV, they were like, we really got to show our mission and how bad it is. But what that did to, I feel like, my generation of people made us kind of like, it almost made us nihilistic to a point where we were just like, okay, we understand it's bad. It's always doom and gloom. Like, what do you want us to do about it? We're just, one person. And, I'm glad that I read The Soul of an Octopus, because I was still kind of going down that track where I had no connection to the natural world. I was living in New York, and I was like, how do we inspire wonder, and which is our mission now, inspire wonder of the ocean through educating the world about octopuses? And how do you do that in a digital environment? And how do you, and I was like thinking of all these questions, but I remember telling my brother, and I was like, I think I have this idea that I want to do. Like, I want to start an octopus fan club. And at the time I was hanging out with celebrities, and I was going to all these really cool events in New York. And he was like, you have a pretty sweet life. He was like, why would you want to ruin it by, starting an octopus fan club? Or why would you want to? And I was like, I think I've got this figured out. Like, I was like, what he didn't know is what I knew, as far as like, I had learned so much about them. I had learned so much about marketing. And so I was just like, at 2 a.m., I remember being like, I'm going to do it. And, but Chelsea, I'm also curious, as you were kind of making your way and deciding, you wanted to be like an octopus researcher, octopus scientist, were there any books along the way that had that much of a profound impact for you? Because I know, like, as we were growing up, there really wasn't that much to look. But I do know that from a science perspective, maybe you stumbled upon a book. Do you remember that first book that you read, or that you were just like, yeah, this is it?
Yeah, growing up, I think I first became interested in just marine biology in general in high school, which might seem a little bit weird because I'm originally from Ohio. There's no oceans, there's no octopus around there. And luckily, I had a biology teacher that also had a marine biology course. And I was like, sounds cool. Like, let's learn about it. And then I just learned about all the different marine animals, the habitats, and just I got hooked from there. So books, or even teachers, whether it's like elementary, middle school, high school, super important. Don't forget that there's a big influence on students to then pursue their career goals or dreams, like myself, for marine biology. And so there really wasn't a book until I would say later on in my scientific career. And that would be probably the cephalopod behavior book. And so that was there wasn't really many cephalopod books out there.
Did you ever question
at
that? Like, did you ever think that was
the
strange, or
time.
did you were just like, this is just what it is?
Yeah, and you kind of bring up, and like what Sy, mentioned at first, there wasn't too much about octopuses, and later on, and I feel like really just recently, where octopuses they're getting their spotlight, which is amazing, and starting to see how they're very important, for research, for our marine environments, and also they're an inspiration to like art, architecture, fashion, soft robotics, which I talk about in my paper. So they're just a really cool animal that at first I feel like we didn't know too much about, but they were mysterious. But now we're learning more about them and how special and how cool they are.
And I just wanted to pull this up to kind of show everybody when we first started OctoNation, I was like, what could I do like that anybody could like put on their phones? And so I think I had an outside. I don't know if you remember signing this sticker for me.
I totally remember it. I
remember it was like
first visit.
Yeah, so I kept this around because I was just like, wow, like this is proof that I'm on the right track. Like you don't know, I guess the inspiration or like just the power that that you hold by just pouring into somebody or and so for me this I remember it was like it kept me going from the standpoint of being like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. Sy Montgomery has signed this sticker for me at an aquarium, and I met Sy and Sy the octopus. And so we just kept iterating. So, one of my friends, Alejandro Esquivas, he drew this middle one that we used for a while. And then the one that I'm wearing on my shirt right now, Alfredo Ortiz, one of my friends who's brilliant. He owns like a barbershop and things like that, but he is an artist as well. Or I think he designed for a barbershop. But and then we finally ended up with, let me just get this. Sorry, from people all over the world that were, sending in octopus things. I remember during this time frame, I was getting, because I had my address. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I had my address posted in some of the things, or like on the website, and people would send me things from all over the world, and I had started having a collection of things all over. And then, Meta or Facebook made it really easy for us to kind of create these where you could change your profile and have like a little thing on it. And I remember I was so blown away by thousands of people updating their profile photos on Facebook to be a proud member of OctoNation, the largest octopus fan club. And again, this was when I was just like, okay, I think we're on the right track. Like now there's like, thousands of us. Well, now, we're over 1 million followers on OctoNation across all of our platforms, which is wild to me. But it just goes to show you that there are, people like us out there, and we're growing as far as how important we believe the octopus is. And that's when I fortunately somehow ran into Chris. He was on an Instagram live. And I remember him drawing, I think it was a robot or an octopus that had, and then he showed me.
Donut octopus?
Yeah, he showed me. He goes, oh, wait a minute. He goes, I've drawn an octopus before, because I think he was drawing a robot. And I said, ever drawn an octopus before? And he was like, yeah, I actually have. And it was an octopus, and it had donuts. And I was like, oh, did you do the donuts because octopuses have a donut-shaped brain? And he goes, no, I just like donuts. And so I, got with him afterwards, and we became really good friends. And he created the world, that we know of when it comes to OctoNation, and so it was just a really cool thing. And then Chelsea, I actually met Chelsea before I met Chris, and I have no idea what she thought of me when I first met her. I mean, I'm a very eccentric type of person, but I just remember Chelsea, reading some of the stuff that I was writing, and being like, okay, I love this, but also like inserting, like, that's why she's OctoNation scientific advisor. She's like, you can say this, but this is more accurate. This is more appropriate. And I was like, great. And I was just like, we just completely up-leveled OctoNation's accuracy as it relates to these analogies. Because you know how fun it is to like come up with different things. I mean, people say like octopuses are aliens, and you know, Chelsea and a lot of scientists are the first ones to be like, no, sorry, they're actually super terrestrial. They're like super OGs on the planet. So they, you know, originated life on this planet. They're not from any other planet. So Chelsea, I don't know if you want to speak to that just a little bit, like maybe like the first time we met and kind of like the first, me just kind of like throwing you into the mix of OctoNation.
Yeah, and the first time we met was over social media. I think it was Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before, like, way before we met in person. And so we met over Instagram, and I think I just remember you messaging me or sharing one of my videos, and I didn't know you or OctoNation really at all. And I was like, what is this? Who's this guy who posts like with the largest octopus fan club? And so I immediately go to the page and I see all this like wonderful content and all the information that they're posting, and such a huge following that I was like, wow, people besides scientists really love octopus. And so then, Warren, I think that you shared one of my videos, and I was just jazzed. I was like, oh my gosh, like OctoNation shared a video. This is amazing. I love that everyone gets to see this octopus behavior. And so that was kind of like the first starting to interact and collaborate. And then we started talking a little bit more and more. And then Warren asked me, like, hey, would you like to be a part of OctoNation, be the scientific advisor, write, you know, fun, friendly, scientifically accurate content? And I was like, absolutely. And so that's kind of where we started with really launching the website, our Octopedia, our blogs that include the latest, you know, scientific publications, and then also doing outreach events as well, has been a lot of fun. And
yes,
I can't believe it's been how many years? Like, it doesn't
10.
Like, but I think I didn't come on at the start.
No, I think you came on
when years.
Yeah, when I founded the nonprofit, which was in 2019. Because, and the reason I founded the nonprofit, I never started it or planned for OctoNation to be a nonprofit organization. I think as it grew and as I realized more people wanted to help, there were a lot of people that, because I was doing octopus education, they just thought we were a nonprofit organization. And so I was just like, okay, well, what would that look like? And so I ventured into the world of what would it be to be a nonprofit organization? You know, could we raise money to create resources that don't exist? And the answer was yes. You know, and you all have helped us throughout the years create Octopedia, hire scientists to cover their research, hire, you know, go to these events, hire Chris to build out all of these octopus characters. And we can get into a little bit more of that, but I just kind of want to speed run through this. And then Chelsea, I had to throw this in here because this is just the kind of stuff that we do, like, you know, anatomically correct, avant-garde.
Like,
this is
like I have to make it correct, you know?
Yeah. And so this is a strawberry squid, and like they're like, oh my god, imagine a squid bedazzled with Swarovski crystals. I mean, prior to AI, I remember when this came out, people would always constantly say, this image is fake. Like, this image is fake. This can't be real. Like, somebody photoshopped this. And that was the thing. Now it's like everything's okay. This is all AI. But before then, it was like, oh, this is photoshopped. But no, this squid exists. And so Chelsea is at outreach events, and I'm at outreach events in like a giant, you know, octopus, you know, inflatable costume, and she's over here in the strawberry squid costume, and we have a really good time. And we've appeared, just Sy and me, we went on a press tour for our book Secrets of the Octopus, but Chelsea and I have been on the news, you know, preaching the Octo Gospel, talking about octopuses and really spreading the word. And so I guess before we get into that, Sy, I guess, do you want to talk about, I mean, because for you, I know that anytime something happens in popular culture or the news, you have been the go-to since 2015. I mean, like, you're the first people NPR thinks about. You're the first person all of these outlets think about. Can you, how many like hits or PR, segments do you think you've done about the octopus to date?
Oh gosh, I don't know, but in 2015 there had been so few books about it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and My Octopus Teacher had not yet come out. The wonderful show about David Scheel and his octopus Heidi that
Mm-hmm.
showed on screen an octopus who was almost certainly dreaming. That had not come out. The wonderful novel, Remarkably Bright Creatures, had
That's
not.
blowing up. Yeah.
Um,
She has like literally since that book came out, I think it's been a couple of years now, every amphitheater, every library, every event she goes to, sold out, sold out, sold out. And it's becoming a movie. I believe the movie comes out later this year.
yes, I think
I
it's on
think
Netflix.
I think the only reason why, I think the only reason why they haven't talked about it much is I feel like, and this is just a premonition of mine, that they are figuring out how to animate the octopus still. I mean, we knew that with like Finding Dory, with Hank, or is it Finding Nemo with Hank the octopus? They had to build new software to animate the octopus. Octopuses, and this is maybe another reason why, throughout history and cartoons and whatever, that maybe octopuses aren't so prominent, is because they're really difficult. Their arms can move in infinite ways. And so Pixar had to develop software to animate the octopus. And even with Ursula, they were trying to figure out in Little Mermaid how to animate her. And they just decided to cut back on the amount of limbs that Ursula had, because they're like, we can't do it. Like, so if we want to push this project forward, we have to figure out what we're going to do here. And so, yeah, it's just a really interesting thing. But Sy, going back to how many things you've done, I mean, guesstimate, like, how many segments do you think you've?
Oh God, I don't know, because oddly, I mean, I'm not with you guys, but I'm kind of a shy person.
Uh-huh.
But what I remember as being so special is the number of people, you especially, who I've been able to physically introduce to literally shake hands with an octopus.
Mm-hmm.
And to know someone like that changes your life. You were talking about how, it's such a technological challenge to even show how they move. To have someone who, I mean, I certainly felt in researching Soul of an Octopus that I made friends with someone who could taste with all of their skin, somebody who had no constraints, no awkward bones, who could literally flow like water, how they can flow through a tiny opening because there's nothing hard in their bodies except for their beak. I knew souls like that.
Mm-hmm.
Were friends with me and were glad to see me. And to be able to introduce others to someone like that just opens up your soul to other ways of being and to appreciating otherness. Because even with all the otherness of an octopus, which is to me like intriguing and thrilling, there's also the sameness in that they look in your eyes and they seem to know there's a sentient being there. They seem to know it's an individual. They definitely, we know from scientific experiments that they recognize individuals on sight the same way we do. And they have some individuals they enjoy being with and others they don't. And it was such an honor to go back week after week after week to see an octopus friend who looked forward to seeing me, not because I'm such a charming person, but because we had shared interests. We loved to share gentle touch. Like you get together with your friends for a meal, we would get together and, well, I wouldn't eat any of their squid, but they would eat the squid and enjoyed playing with toys together. and introducing you. I think, was that the first octopus you'd ever touched, Warren?
I want to say that was, yeah.
I mean, to be with someone who got it, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that these animals mattered, that they weren't just something you find on your plate in the Greek restaurant, that there was someone there. And for you to go forth and meet them. And the things that scientists like Dr. Bennice have been discovering since I started spending time with octopuses in 2011 are just astonishing. I remember, maybe you can describe it, Chelsea, seeing one of your videos of a little tiny octopus in the water, and this horrible, to them, diving bird comes plunging with its sharp beak into the water. And here is this animal with no bones. You would think it would shrink away. You would think it might shoot ink and jet away, or that it would melt like butter on an English muffin into its coral. But no, tell what that octopus did in response to that horrific invasion from the sky.
Oh yeah, octopuses can be bold and fierce. And what this octopus did is it actually kind of punched out its arm to the bird and was like, get out of here, kind of challenging the bird. And first you may not think that like a diving bird, trying to eat an octopus, you may not think that like octopus predators are coming from above, but yes, like octopuses have many predators. The bottom of the ocean, like eels or stingrays, and then like all around in the water column, different types of fish. And then they've got diving birds that are coming down, diving so many feet or meters to then try to get an octopus for their lunch. So yeah, that was really cool footage that we got from the Octopus Monitoring Gadget, the OMG. So that's a 24-hour camera that was developed for my research. And it definitely opened up our eyes to see like what is going on under the water. Wish I had gills. I still don't, unfortunately. So I can't spend all my time underwater. So we have this great OMG to capture these behaviors that I wouldn't have known about otherwise.
And we have the OMG in Secrets of the Octopus that
yes,
Sy wrote about. And so, yeah, if you pick up the book, you can read all about the OMG. Yeah, I mean, I think that's another one of the videos that I saw and immediately shared, just because it's behaviors like that I feel like a lot of what the octopus does is relatable. And I think from the standpoint of, even when that news story came out about the octopus tetrachus, or the gloomy octopus that kind of throws shells and debris at nearby neighbors, and it's just like, oh, well, if somebody was invading my space too, I might, throw some sand at them too at the beach, or, and so there's a lot of things that they do where you're just like, that's relatable. Yeah, I could do that too if somebody was whatever. And so I think when people see that, they're just like, wait a minute. And oftentimes people ask me, they're like, oh, is OctoNation trying to save the octopus? And what I think I've discovered with OctoNation followers and the fans of the octopus is we're very much a type. Like, octopus people are a type of person, and typically they are detached from their ego enough to fall deeply in love with an animal like the octopus, and consider another soul or another thing, what am I trying to say about this? Is essentially like, so when people say, are you trying to save the octopus? I'm always just like, no, humans need saving. Octopuses have figured it out. Humans have been on this planet for what, like 300,000 years? Octopuses have been on this planet for hundreds of millions of years. They have this ancient intelligence that comes with being on this planet for a long time. And it's our job as humans to kind of unravel that. and to be very curious about that, and to kind of detach ourselves from the human experience and just consider, how remarkable it is for a creature to have survived through mass extinctive events that have wiped out, most of life on this planet. And yet octopuses thrived through those times and evolved and are the miraculous creatures they are today. And so I just think there's a lot to learn from them. And of course, all three of us can talk. I know that we're like, when we're in ride shares or we're in the car and people ask us what we do, we can talk from start to finish about the octopus. But I wanted to bring up some species because that's another thing that fascinates me, that the fact that octopuses exist in every single ocean, they're along every coastline in the world, and depending on where they live, they have this like remarkable superpower or adaptive trait that allows them to be perfectly inclined or masters of their environment. And so lots of people know about the coconut octopus. And so I was thinking that maybe we could all go through and just, kind of like talk about the different species we know and that we've covered over the years. But what I love about the coconut octopus is the fact that they stilt walk, they walk across the ocean floor, and specifically looking for articles to kind of cover their squishy bodies. And when you look at kind of even how they operate in their environment, I mean, this one is like clearly trying to like move away and get away from the camera person. And it's just cool how they can get up on these stilts and just kind of walk across the ocean floor. What do you think about this one, Sy?
Oh, I just love this. It shows me how inventive these creatures are. And they have not learned this from their mothers and fathers. They hatch out of an egg, and maybe their mother's alive to use her last breath to blow the paralarvae out into the ocean. But they are so smart, they have to learn everything they need on their own. And to have figured this out, oh gosh, what a and each is an individual too. I mean, all of the coconut octopuses do this behavior, but they do it differently according to what the circumstance requires and the personality of the octopus. Some are bold and some are shy, as Chelsea was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, you sure met that bold one. I thought, what a great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Chelsea? What do you think about the coconut octopus?
I think the coconut octopus is great. It's so cool. So, of course, it gets its name from using these coconut halves, but it also uses different types of shells or shell halves as well that it can close up to protect itself. There it is. Perfect. Right on time right here. And so what's really cool is that, these shells or these coconut halves, they're just not living in them as like a den for protection, but you see that they're pulling them apart, they're walking with them, and then when they need them, then they're adapting them or using them as a shield or some type of protection. So what we see is this example of tool use in an invertebrate, which first we thought that like tool use was only in like higher order vertebrates like mammals, and then we saw other vertebrates use tool use, and now we're seeing this really cool invertebrate that uses tools. So it's really cool to see that like we're learning more, and so we're learning more about these animals, and so the science and the understanding of animals and how sophisticated they are is changing, not just for vertebrates, but we're also seeing sophisticated invertebrates as well. And yes, I just love that stilt walking behavior, also because I just always think back to the publication that describes this, and I feel like maybe the scientists were lost for words, or maybe not. They just straight up explained it as this octopus is doing awkward stilt walking, and just like saying, this is just weird, this is just awkward stilt walking, and I'm like, yes, that is perfect. So it
was definitely one that I had to cover and we can talk more about Secrets of the Octopus later, because that was a full circle moment for Sy and I to come together and she asked me to write the species profiles in the back of the book. And when I was thinking about writing them, I was really thinking about writing like little love letters from that species to the world, and like a little vignette kind of maybe into its life, or really unique or remarkable characteristics about it. And so it's a really fun read. But the Coconut Octopus is definitely one, it's a really popular one. It's one that we cover with OctoNation with our sticker set. I'll show you a little bit later that we have a Coconut Octopus sticker. But they're just, like I said, remarkable, and really smart. This is another fan favorite for OctoNation. I guess if Sy is the Beyonce of octopus people, this is the Beyonce of the octopus world itself, with this gown, this 6 foot long iridescent cape, looks like a floating rainbow through the ocean. And what's really unique about her webbing is that, almost like, I don't know if you've ever seen a journal paper that has like the perforated thing where you can rip out. It has those break lines. The blanket octopus, the female blanket octopus, has these biological break lines, where if she is swimming away and there's something that is trying to attack it, she can break off portions of her cape so that the predator attacks the cape and not her organs. Like, she's trying to protect her body and just go after the cape. And she can retract that cape if she wants to make a quicker exit through the open ocean. And so we have her. Let me get a video of her.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. What do you think about this one, Sy?
Boy, yeah, I don't know why people think about God as being a guy with a beard and a bathrobe when it could be this. I mean,
That's
what
perfect.
a gorgeous creature. And what some of these examples have been making me think about, and both of you, your wise words, is how they inspire in us, or they should, humility to see the glory around us. We just focusing on humans when you could look at this. I mean, wow, what a glorious, glorious being. And Warren, tell about the male of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'll let Chelsea. I'll let you tell them about the male.
Great.
Thanks, Warren. But I was just looking at that video, also thinking like how beautiful that animal is. And then, yes, I know I did the Bedazzled the Strawberry Squid Halloween costume, and I'm like, I think the Blanket Octopus might be next. So I guess chat, let me know if that's the next inspired I say Halloween costume. But then these costumes they're out. I think they're educational outreach costumes. So I've got to start brainstorming and thinking of what the next octopus costume is, and it might be the Blanket Octopus after seeing that video. And the videos that Warren and the photos that Warren has been showing, they are the big, beautiful female. This animal, 5 to 6 feet long. Mm-hmm. And has that beautiful cape that they use to make them look longer and bigger to help with predation, and also those false eye spots that you see along the arm as well. And so, well, the male doesn't look like this at all, and it's not the same size. And so typically when we think about octopuses in general, they usually look the same. So telling if it's male or female can be very difficult. But there is a family or a large group of octopuses that have this sexual dimorphism. So the size of the male and female are very, very different. And we see this in the Blanket Octopus. Female, 5 to 6 feet. And then the male, a size of a walnut.
Yeah, like the size of her eyeball, like right here.
Yeah.
That's
so
probably
talk
how big
about
he
an
goes.
awkward first date, right?
Yeah. You're like, oh, my queen. I always say it's an awkward first and last date, just because I'm pretty sure he doesn't make it long after that situation. But not that she eats him or anything, but just that as soon as he releases that mating arm to her. And I think they've discovered in this species, like the Argonauts are the same, with this, is like there's this really unique mechanism on the hectocotylus that can almost like zombie like swim towards or crawl where it needs to go even after it's detached, so that it latches on to the right area. But it's almost like pre-programmed to kind of like know where to latch on, and that's pretty remarkable. But yeah, blanket octopus is definitely a favorite of mine.
Like you mentioned, the paper nautilus, although its common name is nautilus, it's not a true nautilus, it's an octopus, so an Argonaut octopus as well. Yeah. The female, you might have it later on, but yeah, she's larger, and we'll see that in just a second. And then the male is much smaller, so belonging to the same family, having that sexual dimorphism.
What I think is really interesting too is how she lays eggs, because like I said, this isn't an octopus. When you think of an octopus laying eggs, you're very familiar with the giant Pacific octopus that goes to her den and essentially creates like, a little nook for herself, and then braids her eggs and attaches them to the roof of her den. And then, we've heard of that story. But what's really interesting about different species of octopuses, like the blanket octopus, because she spends her whole entire life floating through this open ocean, something remarkable happened in evolution where she grows like Jack and the Beanstalk, these stalks from her body, these biological stalks, and she attaches her eggs to them, and she essentially carries them through the open ocean, kind of braving the open ocean, and oxygenating them, cleaning them, all while swimming through the open ocean and never touching the ground floor. And so I think it's images like this where people are just like, wait a minute, like, how does that work? And it's like this floating nursery almost. And I think there's just so many like cool stories you can tell and ways that you can go about explaining this that makes people go, wait, what? Wow. Like what's happening here? Had you heard about this before, Sy?
No, actually, I had not before hearing it from you.
Yeah.
From you. And that was one reason why I felt like, we have to get the Octo King on board for Secrets of the Octopus, National Geographic's book, and that you were the perfect person to pick out. How many are there in there of how many octo profiles?
I think there's like 14 or 15.
And each one of them, you just knock it out of the park. And each one of them, the reader is more and more gobsmacked and more deeply in love and in awe of these creatures.
We have the blanket octopus in the book too, Secrets of the Octopus. So we have her in there swimming along. So yeah, it's really, really cool. Let's go to the next one. The sand octopus. Somebody mentioned earlier that this was their favorite species, and it's a good species to have as a favorite species. I always thought it was, in areas that don't have, that much around, like, one of Chelsea's favorite species is the what is it? The long arm sand octopus. Is that it? Or the it's all the long arm species out in Florida.
Right, yeah.
But I always thought to myself, like, species that don't have that much, like live out in a sand environment, what does that look like over a million years? What does that look like over 20 million, 30 million, 40 million? And what it looks like is they evolved to they don't really change color, that much. They change color only to like their environment. And so the sand octopus, while you might not see it doing dazzling displays like the day octopus, it's figured out how to thrive in its environment by burrowing. And it's a really fascinating thing that it just shoots itself close to like a foot underground almost, secretes a mucus to reinforce the walls around it, then creates a ventilation shaft with one of its arms, and just kind of like sits just beneath the surface. And so I remember seeing this video. I remember when I think like back in 2016, 2017, and just being like, what? Like I'd never seen this before. And when I posted it on OctoNation, I think this went viral, and people were like, this is the first time I've ever seen this. And so I just wanted to kind of play this for you and show you. So there it is, creating a ventilation shaft. And there you have it, folks. That's the sand octopus.
Now you
Oh
see
my
it, now you don't.
Yeah. And Dr. Kurt Onthank, I remember when I first met him at some conference that he happened to be at, he goes, oh, you think the sand octopus is cool? He's like, wait till you see the smooth skin octopus. And the smooth skin octopus does more than just burrow beneath the surface. They create underwater tunnels. Like they like swan dive into their environment and create tunnels almost like ants would create little tunnels and like little paths to like move around underground. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. And so I had one of his students, Shane, write, if you go on OctoNation's, our Octopedia, we added the smooth skin octopus to the website so that you could kind of see how they do that burrowing, which is, again, another remarkable thing. I don't know if you wanted to speak any more to that, Chelsea.
Yeah, and so it looks
I know
like,
there are some species in Florida too who do burrowing as well. Is that correct?
yes, one of my favorites. One of the sand dwelling octopuses. So that's the Atlantic long arm octopus. And I think I'm trying to think if I did a blog. I also did a speed talk talking about this group of animals. We like to use the acronym LASSO, so long arm sand dwelling octopus. So it's actually not just one or two, it's a group of octopuses that have these unique or special adaptations to live in these sandy environments, something that you may not think of. Usually when we think of octopuses, it may be a lot of coral reefs or a lot of structured areas, but we have this really cool group of long arm sand dwelling octopuses, and Warren just mentioned two of them where their arms and their morphology is very different than I would say than when you typically think about an octopus, and they use those super long arms for different behaviors, including those burrows. So they're just not in the sand kind of like digging shallow I guess, pits to bury themselves. They're creating those tunnels that Warren mentioned. And so one of the species I study in South Florida does create these burrows, but we don't necessarily know how they do it. And from what Warren just showed you, these octopuses are using different mechanisms. They're creating these burrows or these tunnels in different ways. And so we're about to tackle this question for the Atlantic long arm octopus. Myself and a master's student at Florida Atlantic University are trying to figure out, does this animal need or use a specific type of substrate like sand? Does it selecting to actually create these burrows? What's the sequence of events that goes on? What arms are involved? And how do they make these structures, and how elaborate are they? Is it just straight down? Does it curve like a tunnel? Is there a big octo lounge that it hangs out in at the bottom? Probably, because I've put the OMG on these animals and they can hang out in this area for at least 24 hours. So I don't know, I figure you'd create a lounge if you're going to hang out there for a little bit. So hopefully we'll figure out what their burrows look like.
There's probably some groovy club that the
I know, right? I cannot wait to see, what it looks like and how how they have their coastal decor.
Is this a species that people ask you a lot about, Sy, or like, what would you say are the go-to species that when you're talking about people? I know the giant Pacific octopus for you because Sullivan octopus, but I do think that people over the past 5 years, 10 years can now rattle off a couple species names now, like the blue-ringed octopus, the giant Pacific octopus, the coconut octopus. I mean, there's over 300, but I remember when I first started, people were just like, oh, I just thought there was one.
Yeah, right. And even when you're writing for laymen, often headlines are "The Octopus X."
The octopus, yeah.
And it's not just one. Now people do ask me a lot about Octopus tetricus, the gloomy octopus, who of course is not gloomy. He's probably in a very good mood, because this is the octopus who in certain situations lives in large apartments. And this is where Octopolis is. And since they've discovered another Octatlantis, but the same species is solitary in other conditions. So this also shows us that not only do individual species of octopus have unique behaviors, but even within an individual species, there are large variations that if you saw them in humans, you would call it culture.
She just left us silent.
Yes. Well, that octopuses sometimes just leave you gobsmacked in awe.
Nice. Let's
Yes.
continue into the different species. This one, and I definitely included this in the book, the hairy octopus, because this is a less, or they say, to be described, because it doesn't formally have an official scientific name. So of course we let OctoNation kind of decide, and I believe the winning one was Chewbactopus, after Chewbacca. But this is a really interesting species to me, because if you look down at your finger, look at your fingernail, they're roughly the size of your fingernail, which is wild when you look at this photo, but they're super, super tiny, and they're considered like the holy grail of octopus finds. And I know that when underwater photographers find them, it's just like, you better play the lotto, because it's very rare to see the species. And we were one of the first ones. Actually, there was a dive site in Lembe that covered the species. But I really wanted to talk to underwater photographers and really figure out what is the personality of this species. And from a lot of them, they said that they just kind of go where the ocean currents take them, from the standpoint of they just hop their bodies up into the current, and they just kind of look like anything other than an octopus. And so it was really cool to kind of get that firsthand account of just the behavior of this species, because when I would ask anybody about it, they'd be like, any scientists, they'd be like, honestly, we don't know. But a lot of underwater photographers become citizen scientists that really help, scientists with their work, and I think that's a really cool thing. But just to kind of give you an idea of kind of what they look like, they do kind of look like underwater hair models. They're like the Fabios of the octopus. And what's really interesting about the chromatophores around their eyes is that they almost like pulsate like outward. So they don't really have this elaborate color changing ability. I mean, they kind of use their papilla, their hair is kind of as camouflage. They look like a fuzzy algae. But they do radiate throughout their chromatophores, like just their eye. And I'm curious as to like why that happened. But again, it's pretty much, and maybe it's maybe Chelsea, you can speak to this, the whole dematic display. Maybe that's kind of like their version of that.
Yeah, when Warren said dematic display, that kind of like refers to a threat or startle display that an animal may use. So if it's doing anything that's like high contrast or flashing maybe like looking, that may make the octopus's eye look bigger than it actually is. Or sometimes octopuses will get a dark eye ring around their eye, which again makes their eye look larger, and then the animal looks larger. So they can say to a potential predator, like, hey, back off, like I'm big and scary, or like I see you.
Yeah, we see that in butterflies as well. And I'm sure there's more animals that do this. But this whole idea around, like, if you have a weak defense from the standpoint of being a squishy floating protein bar in our oceans, they develop these behaviors that allow them to have predators look at them and be like, okay, wait, maybe I shouldn't mess with you. And it's worked, clearly. I mean, they're still around, they're thriving in our oceans. But yeah, these making their eye spots appear larger, or even like the day octopus having those big false eye spots and then almost ballooning up and walking on like two arms to look like, hey, I'm bigger than I look. I'm intimidating. It's kind of like when two guys are like puffing up their chest and walking towards each other. I kind of like imagine that. And yeah, that's that whole dramatic, like, don't mess with me, like, and apparently the hairy octopus does that with its eyes, or as Tyra Banks says, smize, where you smile with your eyes. I guess the hairy octopus is trying to look intimidating, but to me, it just looks super cute. So unfortunately, that would not work with me. I would be like, oh, I want to keep you. But yeah, here's just more photos of, throughout the years, we've made friends with incredible underwater photographers and videographers. I mean, really, they're the lifeblood of OctoNation from the standpoint of like showing us this incredible footage, going out there and wanting to share their work with the world to inspire wonder of our oceans. We really could not do that. It's an incredible pillar of OctoNation is our underwater photographers and videographers. But that's them. And I just wanted to show you, we did get a video of their behavior, of them just kind of using the ocean currents. And, you can see it siphon kind of blowing little jets of water. But this is it trying to attempt to look like anything other than an octopus. Do you see those that radiating, that pulsing from the
Yeah.
like a really interesting thing that pretty much the only area of the body that you kind of see the white speckles on the arm.
I was just looking at that, the white speckles, and then the right around the eyes. You see, it's being that high contrast. It's picking up from its background or its environment to help with probably the camouflage.
Yeah, and I mean it works. I mean, there's points of time where I'm just like, oh, that looks like a plant, and imagine like this thing is the size of a fingernail. So like it's super, super tiny. The underwater photographers and videographers have these lenses that, I mean, can like really these macro lenses that can zoom in. And so I just love the fact that we have these videos now. Mimic octopus. Chelsea, do you want to talk about this one?
Oh man, superpower, the copycat. So yes, there is the mimic octopus. This one species gets the name, the mimic octopus. However, there's kind of a group of octopus that you can also call mimic octopuses, so plural. And this means that basically this animal and other species of mimic octopuses are looking like other animals. And so again, what Warren mentioned with the hairy octopus, these different types of camouflage is the goal is don't look like an octopus, trick your predator. You are not a tasty treat. And so you can see here that also where you find the mimic octopus, you also find other poisonous animals like sea snakes. So this octopus may leave out two of its arms to mimic poisonous sea snakes in the area, or toxic sea snakes. You'll also see this animal sometimes float up in the water column and kind of like puff itself out. And that's thought to be mimicking a lionfish. And Warren will probably show you next. There's also toxic or poisonous flatfish or flounder in the area that this animal looks like as well. I think it's gonna, let's see. Woo. So that's kind of like a very high contrast dramatic display. And this looks like it might kind of start to go up in the water column, mimicking that lionfish. There it goes, swimming around. Again, confuse the predator. Don't look like an octopus. There's the floundering, the flounder mimicry this animal is doing. And so a lot of flatfish or flounders live in these sandy environments. So a lot, again, these long arm or the lasso animals will mimic different species or flatfish in the area. So I also see this in the Atlantic long arm. So these are Indo-Pacific species. So I study a relative or their cousin in the Atlantic Ocean here.
I just kind of like love how it just like emerges almost. And you can see there in the beginning, it's completely blending in. And then as the photographer gets close, it was just like, okay, wait a minute. Like, I need to show you who I am. Like,
don't you know who I am?
don't you know who I am? Like, this is not going to work for you. Yeah, I mean, this is just another one of those species that, because of its environment, has had to learn, I guess, because this is a more busy environment. There's a lot of other animals in the area, and it just had to learn, I guess, throughout hundreds of millions of years, like, how do I thrive in this environment? What do I need to do? You know, and this specific species, I suppose, learned that maybe if I mimic these animals or do these things, I have a better chance for survival. And that's is so fascinating to me. It just blows my mind all the time when I'm thinking about how do they know how to do that? What does intelligence look like here? And yes, I mean, what are your thoughts around just this species?
Wow. Well, what I am most impressed by is that not only do they fool people, but they fool other fish in the ocean. When they're mimicking the flatfish, sometimes another flatfish, another flounder, will like fall in love and start following them around. So to me, what this says is, and they will change according to what's required of them of the moment. This, to me, is evidence of what philosophers call theory of mind. They're aware that there are other minds around them that might operate differently than their own. So they are fooling the experts out there, fooling fish of the species that they are mimicking. So sometimes with our eyes, which are adapted to see out of water, we may not even see all the things that they are mimicking because they might look different to an eye that's designed to work in the water. So we may not even have the complete catalog of all the things they can mimic.
100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I feel like and then you mentioned fooling the experts. They've definitely fooled me. There have been times underwater, and I've spent probably over 2,000 hours underwater looking for octopuses. So I'm like, yeah, I've developed a good search image of what an octopus looks like. There have been times where I have stared at like a tube worm casing or algae just swaying back and forth, thinking it's an octopus. And I swear, we stared at that algae for probably 5 minutes. And then I thought, wait a second. I moved a little bit closer and a little bit closer, trying to get a reaction out of the octopus. Well, it wasn't an octopus.
Oh, and Sy, I just remembered. Sy totally has to be somewhere, and so I just want to, Sy's probably going to have to dip out, and she has another meeting to go to. But thanks for joining us for World Octopus Day, Sy. Every single year, it's great that you're with us and that you can join us. And so, yeah, thank you for being here. Chelsea and I will finish out the presentation.
It's been a lot of fun chatting, Sy. Hope to see you soon.
So great to see you all. It's such an honor to address the nation.
For sure.
So happy World Octopus Day, friends.
Bye, Sy. Cool. And so this last one that we have, this last species that we'll talk about is the giant Pacific octopus. And they're, obviously famous in aquariums all over the world. This is the species. And when you think of like, why the giant Pacific octopus, this one, the lifespan is longer. So, 3 to 5 years. And I think they've kind of like figured out through looking at different octopus species that, it seems like the colder the water, the lifespan is a little bit longer. And I'm not saying that's for every species, but it just seems like, I know that there's a species they discovered that like broods over her eggs for nearly 4 years straight, like that they discovered. And so there's just something about that deep, deep, deep sea or that cold environment, for whatever reason, that kind of extends and slows things down and kind of extends that lifespan. I'm not too sure why that is, but what I know is like that warm water species is just like a live fast, die young situation. I know that there's lots of species that don't make it to their first birthday sometimes. And so that's just the nature of their life. But yeah, the giant Pacific octopus is the star at a lot of aquariums. I have a video of one walking across the ocean floor. Look how big they are. And what's fascinating to me about just this species, and there's so many, me and Chelsea were even talking about this the other day, so many sites online that say that like the octopus, the octopus can grow up to 600 pounds. There's like the field guides that say, no, only 300 pounds. There's a research paper that's just like, okay, well, we've officially weighed one that's like what 100, what was it, 150 or what was it?
Yeah, close to 200. So 200. We're really looking through and trying to, figure out what is accurate and what may not be.
But when I see octopuses and I like see videos and things like that, I feel like they're all just under 100 pounds or even less. But I know that out in the wild, when they can grow and they can eat and they can get bigger. And what's fascinating to me about their suckers is that their biggest suckers are almost like dinner plate size. Like they can get pretty
crazy,
massive, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
Yeah. For, I think the giant Pacific octopus, one big sucker can actually lift, I think, up to 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And they have about 200 suckers on each arm. So you can imagine how strong these animals are. Even the little ones are super strong.
And so I just want to show you, if you want to look into more species, we have Octopedia. You can go through, you can learn. Chelsea wrote a lot of these species profiles, and a lot of the underwater photographers all over the world contributed their photos to this. And this is something that we're still working on to this day, adding species profiles and educating. So that's, part of the nonprofit's mission is to have the largest comprehensive field guide of species online. And so we're constantly working towards that. But this is kind of what the profiles look like. If you go to OctoNation.com, you can see their size, and kind of follow their superpowers, and then get into kind of the more sciencey part of them.
Science.
Sciencey.
Speaking of science, look at this.
Speaking of science, we for this month we are all the proceeds from this sticker pack. So if you go to OctoNation.com/STEM and buy this specific sticker pack, we are creating a grant. I don't know, Chelsea, if you want to talk more about this.
Yeah, sure. So we, when we did our first post to kick off Octopus Day or Octopus Month, we are celebrating. We mentioned that we have a lot of, I would say, new initiatives that we would like to do, and we want to do more to celebrate these amazing animals. And also, how we learn more about them is doing scientific research. So with that and scientific research, we have our STEM Octopus series. And like Warren mentioned, the proceeds from this series will go to supporting at least one octopus scholarship or grant for a student that is conducting scientific research. So it's super exciting. I'm really excited to be a part of OctoNation, to where we can now give back or help support the scientific community and these early career scientists.
Yeah, we feel like this is the perfect sticker set too, just because these kind of represent octopus scientists out there in the world. You have the ruby octopus, out of California with, there's the science. Then you have the blue-ringed octopus. That is technology because of their advanced venom. We chose that one for that. Then you have the coconut octopus that represents engineering because of their ability to engineer and create
tool use.
Tool use. And then we have the gloomy octopus, Octopus tetricus, that we've talked about throughout the presentation, being mathematicians, and really trying to figure out how far from a den can I cohabitate with somebody before
Yeah. Also, I think of like building like architecture, building cities, Octopolis, Octolantis, that this species has done.
Yeah. So every purchase of this will go to funding a scholarship for an octopus researcher. Other than that, we have Octo merch. And for those of you who've been following us for a long time, you know, we have the most incredible designs. You know, we worked with Chris Adams, me, Chelsea, and Chris. We always say that we're the 3 hearts of OctoNation. And we were in a group chat for years, ideating these species, talking about little details, you know, like Latte Luna, which is probably one of the most popular. She's a blue-ringed octopus, and she has this skull and crossbones because they produce tetrodotoxin, which is 1,000 times more lethal than cyanide. So there's a lot of really cool details that we discussed together. We chose species. We have so many really cool things, because I think when we were first starting, we were just like, there's really no anatomically correct. We were seeing octopuses with little mouths. We were just like, no, we can't have that. You know, octopuses can be anatomically correct and cool. And so, you know, we were able to create all of this together. Other than that, you know, we have Secrets of the Octopus. That book is available. Chelsea is featured in the book, which is really cool that, you know, we have Chelsea in the book. Sy wrote the book. I did the species profiles. And Alex, who we're going to talk more about, and we're actually publishing a blog today on octopus intelligence and how you really measure intelligence in an octopus. And she's going through 4 pillars of intelligence. And so we'll release that first blog today. And so if you are a customer of ours, whether it be through the store or you are subscribed to our blog, if you go to OctoNation.com, you'll get an email and you'll get that blog. And so you can keep up to date with us there. Other than that, again, we have OctoNation.com /sheet, and that's to download the octopus coloring sheet and celebrate today. You can print this out and give it away. You can email this, send the link to people, OctoNation.com /sheet. And we'd love to see your creation. So tag OctoNation and keep us in the loop. But if anybody has any questions, I know I saw some questions come in and I'll pull them up, but I'd love to answer some questions, and we can talk a little bit more about the rest of the programming we have scheduled for the month. This isn't, you know, World Octopus Day is great, but we have Octopus Month. I believe I founded that in 2019 when I went on the news for the first time and declared October is Octopus Month. And so we're going to be celebrating all month long. I mean, really all year long. But this is a big month for us. And so, yeah. So let's get to some questions. I think we had somebody here that said, I've become a huge octopus fan after following one for 30 minutes on a dive in Bonaire 2 years ago. I share my dive video.
Wow.
Cool. We had somebody.
I know Bonaire is a great area to see the Caribbean reef.
Bubbly Octo said, I don't know if you answered this yet. I had to step out, but if you could talk to the whole world at once, what would you tell them about the octopus?
Silence. I'm like, man, everything we just like covered.
I know, right?
I'm just like,
I always, you know, I have my spiel, you know, I've gotten it down. I've obviously been writing and speaking about octopuses for the long time, but typically I go through and say that octopuses, you know, have been on this planet for hundreds of millions of years, and they've survived through mass extinctive events that have wiped out most of life on this planet, and yet they're here. And even though, you know, they're thinking about creating farms, they're consuming, not just humans consuming, but other animals. They're in almost every food web in our ocean. They are still thriving in our oceans. And so anytime somebody says, are you trying to save them? I just go, no, they've figured it out. I mean, they've seen dinosaurs come and go. They've seen lots of things come and go. And so with us humans, I just think it's important for us to respect nature and expect, Mother Nature. I always tell people that Mother Nature could sneeze at any moment and wipe out life on this planet. And so, there's some gratitude that I have for the fact that we exist today, and that we're here, because, really, honestly, we're not in control. So, but yeah, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying what I would tell people about the octopus. Just that they're incredible creatures, and they seem to have figured out life as we know it. So who's to say that the way that we've currently figured things out and what we're building towards is the right way to do something? We should look to other creatures who have been here for far longer. But what do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, and I think I was like, oh, I feel like that was the perfect segue of inspiration or bio-inspiration, and what we covered, the different topics that we covered for the different species that we highlighted. We talked about their adaptations, or what we like to call their superpowers. Octopuses living in all these different environments, shallow depths, deep depths, different habitats, like Warren mentioned, like they figured it out. These adaptations are so cool, and we can learn so much from them. And so what I like about octopuses is those adaptations, learning about those and seeing how octopuses live in those habitats, why they are important, for the marine food webs, the conservation, and that's only one component of science. And what I really like about octopuses is that then you can branch out and use their superpowers or their adaptations to explore different areas of science. So this bio-inspiration that we can use, and connect with not just scientists, but people in a larger community, like artists that are using those adaptations as inspiration, artists, architects, fashion, robotics. And so that's what I get really excited about the octopus and their behavior, because we can connect as a community, not just a scientific community, but a larger community, which is what's great about OctoNation, the world's largest octopus fan club. We're coming together because we love this animal, and then expressing different ways that they inspire us.
Yeah, and the cool thing now, and Sy had mentioned it, that there's coffee mugs, there's everything, and it's not just OctoNation that's doing it. I always say, like, the octopus economy, or this is great for the octopus economy, because even just yesterday, you had Lynn Kelly, who, and I'll pull this up a little bit closer, who came out with 3 Blue Hearts, and this is geared towards, I would say, like, kind of like a teenage audience. But of course, for us octopus aficionados, we got to pick it up. We got to support.
I was like, I got to read it.
Yeah, we got to support the octopus economy. There is Brian Kessinger, who is the youngest person ever to be hired at Disney Animation Studios. Has I don't know if you've heard of this, Bedtime Stories for Your Octopus. This is the latest book in his collection, and this came out. I'm not even sure if it's available for purchase right now. I just got this 2 weeks ago, but this is something to look forward to. And let's see. There's Cherie. She came out with Octopus Underwater Wonders, and her and I worked together for a bit, and she finished it out for sure. Because I'm always all over the place, and we're both ADHD, but she really knocked this out of the park. And this is an incredible book. I believe if you go to octopusesbook.com, you can pick this one up. And so
I'm a big fan of all the puns.
Yeah, there's so many puns in this.
Person,
and me and Chelsea at Aquashella were reading through all the puns here. But this is the glowing sucker octopus, and this is like really one of the first books when it comes to just octopuses, because typically when you write when there's a book, it's they work in cuttlefish, or they work in nautilus, or they work in squid, or they work in any of the things. She was like, no, just octopuses all the time. And so she's out of Australia. And so it might be a little bit more for shipping for this book, but it's 100% worth it. So I think you go to octopusesbook.com and you can get this one. And then one of our friends, and we're excited to announce a poster that we're going to have for sale later this month. And he created a world called Octopolis, and this is really the first octopus, centric comic book with incredible illustration. And so you can actually pick this up if you go to octomerch.com. We have this available on our website. I think we only have like 2 or 3 more copies, but you can find it online. But yeah, so this just came out. This was a successful Kickstarter campaign that he did and funded this. And so I just feel like we're in the golden age of octopus research and art. And other than the octopus being sold to us as this weird, slimy, malicious, alien creature, I think there's a lot of people that are like, no, the octopus is incredibly resilient. It's thrived through all, these extinctive events. The octopus is a problem solver. It has all these adaptive traits. The octopus, there's all these other words now, I feel like, that when we think about the octopus, instead of going to, oh, it's weird, it's squishy, it creeps me out. I feel like we've kind of, through OctoNation and through all of our work together, the octopus economy, we've kind of sold people on the fact that maybe you should consider it a little bit more. Maybe you should look into different species. And if people say the octopus is weird or slimy, I go, oh, you just haven't found the species for you yet. Like, there's a flapjack octopus that has little fins on its head. You have the blanket octopus that has that 6-foot iridescent gown. You have, so many different, species to kind of look for and to be your animal, So, yeah. What about you, Chelsea?
That's what we would tell the world.
Yeah. That's what I would tell the world.
See, we just can't.
As far as the rest of the programming this month, what do we have cooked up for everybody?
Yes. So those that have tuned in, thank you very much. You're the first ones to know. We haven't launched this yet, but we'll definitely be making posts to tell about our programming. So we're kind of following since our first live is on a Wednesday. We're kind of following that structure, and so once a week, every Wednesday, we're trying to do a live with different content that we will be posting about. So we'll have how to draw an octopus. We'll also have a panel discussion, a Q&A with at least 4 to 5, still confirming one, octopus scientist. And so if you haven't already, go to our octopus post. I had a comment below with the different topics that you're interested in. I'm pulling that information to see, like, okay, you want to learn about octopus taxonomy or genetics, like, check. I've got those scientists coming in. You want to learn about octopus, like cognition, or their, if there's any social behavior, like, check. We got that octopus coming in. You want to learn about their behavior, or what does it look like to actually do a octopus dive? Like, what's it like in the field with them? Like, check. I've got those scientists coming in. So I'm super excited. I'm trying to kind of put together panelists that you can ask your questions to, and they can answer as experts. So we've got how to draw an octopus, and of course we'll be kind of dropping cool octopus facts during that. Octo panel, so octopus scientists coming in, and also I heard back from Alex Schnell. We're dropping her blog today, one of 4. There'll be a series about octopus intelligence, and so she will be joining us to wrap up Octopus Month, to answer all your questions about octopus intelligence, and also kind of circle back to the book Secrets of the Octopus. So I'm really excited for these events.
Yes, and if you want to be alerted, so say you don't want to miss out on any of these events, if you go to OctoNation.com, there at the top, there's a red bar. If you just put your email on there, we'll send you an email before any of these events. For those of you who are on our email list and you're here because of that, it's really easy to just send you an email and to get you to come into these events. So so look out for those, and let us know if you have any ideas too, as it relates to kind of what you want to see, because we'll be posting on our social media accounts as well. So nice. Yeah, so there's also a lot of really cool things. So we have this one said, I was always curious, what do octopuses dream about? I saw a video of one changing color and texture when they were sleeping.
So that's an excellent question. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I'm going to try to get a scientist that looks at sleep and behavior, and potentially when they change the color of their skin during dreaming, like what that may potentially signify as well.
I mean, we love to speculate.
Yes, yeah. So I'm gonna zip it because I think that we're gonna have someone, the experts, join us to talk about that.
I always love to speculate. I always imagine, I don't know if any of you out there have a dog or a cat. I don't know if cats, like, I don't know if you've seen a cat. Yeah, cats, like, I'll see a cat, like, I've seen a cat hiss in their sleep and just like go or whatever, like almost as if, but I've seen Lillian, my dog, my German Shepherd, she'll kick her legs as if she's running after something, a squirrel, like she'll like take off. And I imagine that's kind of what octopuses are doing as they're like kind of like maybe if they're sleeping, organizing their thoughts, synthesizing them, you know, learning all that kind of stuff. And as they're going through that process, maybe they're dreaming about an interaction they had earlier, or, you know, I don't know. I always imagine like how much trauma, like they don't see it as trauma, that maybe that's just my generation where we're just like, everything is traumatizing. But like, I mean, imagine you live in an environment where there's 360 degrees of predators all around you all the time. And so when you sleep, you're probably just like, I can't believe I made it another day in this crazy, weird, wacky environment where everything literally wants to eat me. So I imagine when you're seeing those color changing patterns, the octopus is escaping, you know, something. But I don't know. We'll have maybe Dr. Alex Chanel will come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, the blog series is about octopus intelligence and how we measure that. And so maybe we can get her to speak to more into that. But again, it's always fun to kind of speculate and imagine. And for those of you who are watching that aren't scientists, you know, you don't need a degree to kind of like compare. Like the thing that I love about Dr. Alex Chanel is that she's a comparative animal psychologist. So she actually looks, when she's looking at the octopus, she's also like comparing that, like when in her research, to relationship, to a lot of different things. And so if you see out there in the wild something that like you notice a behavior similar, sometimes it's just fun to be like, wait a minute, where have I seen this before? Like an octopus, they're like their radula, or like it's like a ribbon like tongue. When I'm talking about that, I'm like, you know how like a cat tongue is like really rough, and it's, you know, big cats essentially, they can essentially use it to tear the muscle off of a bone or something like that. I'm like, that's essentially kind of what the octopus is doing with their radula. It's having to kind of like rip flesh, turn it into a smoothie with their saliva, and like bring it down their esophagus. And so it's kind of fun, if you're not a scientist, just to kind of be like, okay, where have I seen this before? Or is this similar? And just have a conversation about it in our comment section. And I feel like that's a cool way for you to interact with OctoNation. It's not like every comment has to be from a scientist or has to be a deep research conversation. It could just be like, I've noticed this before, or this reminds me of this. And so that's kind of a fun way to interact with OctoNation. And a lot of people, you don't have to say something profound. Sometimes people, like with a blanket octopus, they're like, this kind of looks like floating bacon in the ocean. I'm like, wait, it kind of does. And it kind of is, if you think about how, you know, other animals eat the blanket octopus. Maybe they see it as like a floating bacon strip. So I don't know. I feel like our community has the coolest comments. and it just makes me think, and it's fun to interact with hundreds of thousands and now over 1 million followers across our social media platforms. So keep it coming, OctoNation. But I think this is a good place to stop. We've been live for nearly 2 hours. I remember yesterday, Sy was like, how long are we going to go for? 2 hours? And I was like, no, what are we going to talk about for 2 hours? Octopuses.
Here we are.
Yep, here we are. Well, if you made it this far, you're one of us. You're obsessed. And happy World Octopus Day. And make sure you follow us across all social media platforms. Tell your friends that they missed out on this live stream. It's actually available for replay, so they don't need to miss out. You can just tell them to go to our YouTube and watch this. But yeah, any parting words, Chelsea, for the nation?
Happy World Octopus Day. Stay tuned for Octopus Month. We'll be doing our posts throughout the entire month. Different cool facts, research, what the nation is up to, and I'm just excited to. We talk about every year how are we going to make it bigger? How can we do more to spread the word about these cool animals? And so I think we've ramped it up this year with all of our events and activities. So I'm super excited, and we'll see everyone soon.
Awesome. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Happy World Octopus Day.